Okay, so these cups that we've made now, we need to decide to do something with these. You've all added feet onto these, or a foot of some sort. That can be a really basic thing, like you guys, like some of you guys have chosen. This one started to get a little bit, a little bit crazy. The other thing we're going to get into today is surface, and that's either going to be carved or added on. All right, so sorry. And another thing we're going to deal with is the lip of the pot here. So let me get the crazy one off there for a while. Get the basic one on here. So we have this. This is the basic one. I decided I wanted something different on the lip up here. So what I did was I took a coil and I just scored and slipped that on to make it a little bit taller up there. And then what I'm going to do to this is just simply flare this out a little bit like that. And it looks like I'm pinching. Really what I'm doing is I'm pushing with my thumb just to make it a little bit wider and have it more of that like tulip look to it. And then, it's pretty wet now, so I might not want to smooth that out too much right now.
So you roll the foil and...
Yeah, and I'm going to add a coil to the outside of this now too, like we saw Paul Briggs doing in that little short video the other day. Okay, so I'm just going to add one coil on here, and I'm going to play around with that. So I just size that up, and then I do have to score it. So where I want that coil to sit, and with this one, I want it to be, I just want it to go around the pot, just like straight around, so parallel with the surface there. So I'm going to score both surfaces. I'm just going to add slip, and I'm not scoring that well, so maybe I should just do that better. So again, you're trying to roughen the surface. You're not just making little lacerations, you're actually making it rough. I just add a slip to the coil. I'm going to just wrap that around like that. Where it overlaps, I'm just going to cut through like that. And then I take out those two little end pieces. I score the ends because every two pieces of clay you attach have to have some sort of slip. And again, that slip is basically your glue. And then to blend this one, I'm kind of pinching, pushing it on to the pot like that. So a basic design principle for you guys to keep in mind is one of repetition. Okay, if you want something to make visual sense, you should repeat it in a design. Like the 4 feet on there make perfect sense because you repeated that. If you wanted to just continue those cubes all the way up and around it, again, you're repeating that. If you start to throw in a lot of different shapes, it makes it a little bit weird, but I mean, weird can be good, right? Depends on you, how you see things. So I added that coil on, kind of keys into this coil, or this shape and this shape. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna try to, let's see, I can do this. This is a simple thing, which could be seen as a texture. Just something like that. That's not really my cup of tea. But what I can do is what we saw Paul Briggs do the other day in that video, is pinch some of this stuff out. What if we pinch that out like that? My goal with this one is still to have a usable cup I can drink from. You guys don't have to do that, okay? You can make these things as like crazy and wacky as you want to. because I'm not going to make you drink out of them. Like, that's not part of your grade, is drinking out of this cup. So I get something weird like that going. Now, maybe I like what Paul does because he gives these things like a secondary bend, like so it comes out of the pot, but then I'm also going to have this kind of flow, like turn a little bit like that. So you have a little bit of movement there, like a gear would or a saw blade would. So see how that's kind of turned? So that could be enough embellishment for that, but I think maybe for this one, since I did that up there, I think maybe I'm going to pinch the foot a little bit too. And that clay is soft enough I can make that decision right now. And that kind of keys in, kind of relates a little bit to that. Yeah, a little bit, yeah, it adds a little bit to it, right? And honestly, you could do that up top too and still have a fairly drinkable rim if you want a drinkable rim.
I'm not gonna lie, at first I didn't like it, but this is pretty good.
I don't expect you to lie to me to make me feel good. I'm pretty
It was
sorry.
hideous, I was like, what is that? But now it's very pretty, I like it.
You like that?
Yeah.
Well, you can thank Paul Briggs for the inspiration for that one. Okay, so this, what I want to do with this one, this is the one with all the wacky feet on it. I want to do a couple things with this. I'm going to alter the lip by subtracting. Okay, so this is all additive. This is additive texture, additive activation. This, I added feet, sure, but the emphasis for this one is going to be on subtracting. Okay, so taking some of that away. So up top, I don't want it to be angular. Okay, I want this one to be kind of flowy, I guess. Is the hippy dippy kind of word for that. But undulating, how's that? I want this to be more, I want this to look like it is, you know, natural, curvilinear, I guess is what I would call it. So with the lip, I just want to do something like that. It just makes that a little bit more purposeful, okay, a little bit more curvy. So this is leather hard right now, so I can really get into this and I can cut some of this away. And normally, if this was really soft, I'd be able to pinch it, right, and round that out. But because it's stiffer now, I'm going to cut that away, and I have to kind of cut it round, if that makes any sense at all. So I can do that. I don't have a sponge right here, but what I can do is I can just take some slip and rub that around. Do you have a sponge just right there? Nice. Thank you. My sponge does not absorb right away. It's so weird. But I can rub over like this and see that starts to take away that little bit of faceting that went on. Right? And it kind of makes it more similar, flowy with the feet. Right? It's kind of weird. So then, what I want to do is I want to map out a design for the outside and maybe for part of the inside too. So I can take just the end of my knife. You guys have a couple different tools in there. So what I think I want to do is just have a design here that is kind of just undulating and flowy, that moves around. It might, you know, might echo the shapes of the feet attaching to the cup. And then we have these tools. These are linoleum block cutting tools. You guys ever cut linoleum blocks before for printmaking? Never did any of that in high school? No? Good, I didn't either. Because I didn't have art in high school, like most of you guys. These work really well. There's a V-shaped gouge and then there's a U-shaped gouge. So they make a different mark. I like the U-shaped ones. And what you can do is that line that I made, I can go and carve into this and take that clay away. And what's fun about doing this is when we go to add glaze to these, the glaze, when glaze melts in the kiln, okay, it's going to flow a little bit. Where it flows On the high spots, it's gonna break and be one color, and then where it collects in that recess, it's gonna be a different color. So you can have a lot of variety in a pot just by having a little bit of texture on it. So again, I just have something simple like that, okay? But it works with I think it will work with the piece. How do we make this make visual sense? We repeat that, okay? Don't just put one line around it, call it a day. As you build up, and you don't have to do, you don't have to do it exactly like the line underneath it or above it. These can start to work in all different ways. But once you start to repeat these curvy lines, it starts to make a lot more visual sense. I'm a big fan of carving. I like what carving can do. And then in these smaller little areas there, I can take a smaller little gouge like this, and I can, if I want, I can take some clay out of there and really activate this entire surface so it starts to really come alive. Okay, so see how we went from being really basic to being a lot more elaborate with things. It's, it's hard to bring like who you are into a pot like this, but this is like this, you appreciate nature in the natural world with these two styles of cups. You can do really geometric things too, like you've started with your feet, with the cubes on the feet. You can make these more, can I take one of these? Can I use one? And some of your pots, I'll take this one's probably the least.
Then take the worst one.
Yeah, I'll take the worst one. When they still are wet and a little bit malleable, you can make these so they are a little bit, you can make these different shapes so they're not just round, just by tapping them on their sides. And we also have some paddles that you guys can use, but really to get the basic square, would just be doing something like that. Does that kind of make sense to you all? Yeah? And then you can really hone these down so it does look like a cut gem or a real square like you have it there, but just, you can make anything with clay. That's the cool thing. It's also terrifying, right? It's like, oh my God, I can make anything? What do I make? You just have to start somewhere. That's why we're starting with these pinch pots. All right, so I would say ignore these for now. Keep them covered though, because this one's getting really stiff just sitting out here today. Focus on the pinch pots, and then over the course of between now and the next time you come in, just have a really good idea for how you want these teapots to look. And it's gonna be based probably on what you start experimenting with the cups. Good? All right, thanks guys. I'll be around to see what everybody's doing.